Hey everyone, this is Cameron from Renegade Animation on renegadepopculture.com. If you like what we do, please give us a like, a follow, and a rating on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to us. Make sure to share our episodes because we are everywhere. And if you want to or can, consider supporting our Patreon. That way we can keep doing what we love, and that's talking about the world of animation and Spy Family. On with the show.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Renegade Animation on the Renegade Pop Culture Podcast Network. My name is Mike. I'll be your host for this evening. Joining me, as always, is the animation guru himself, Cameron.
Howdy, howdy.
And we got a really fun show for you tonight. We are finally getting to talk about the entirety of Spy Family, including the movie Code White. But first, something else landed on our laps. The lineup for this year's Annecy Film Festival was announced, and we have a pretty cool lineup. So, Cameron, what are some of the movies that stick out to you?
Alrighty, so for those that don't know, because we didn't talk about it last year, the Annecy Film Festival is an entirely animation-based film festival. It takes place in, Annecy, France. And if you want to get a good idea of what's getting made and released around the world, this is the ideal place to keep an eye on top of whatever animation-based news website you follow. You really should check out what Annecy has going every single year, because I wasn't entirely sure what's coming up. And I've said that before. Really, what's coming out from overseas animation is a mystery until the Annecy lineup is announced, because then we'll see that trickle down into like Fantasia Fest, TIFF, or my favorite, Animation is Film. And then next year into the New York Children's International Film Festival. And I was pleasantly surprised by this lineup, because not only do we have returning favorites, we already have a few films that have a confirmed release in the US, with Ghost Cat Anzu from Japan and France, and The Colors Within, another animated film for Japan, are going to get brought over here by G Kids. And I am very excited for The Colors Within. It's a new Naoko Yamada film with Reiko Yoshida and is animated by Science Saru. It's like a cocktail of everything I love in animation in one project. There's already a trailer, by the way. You can go up and onto YouTube or Anime News Network and look up the trailer for it. It looks stunning. I mean, it's Naoko Yamada and Science Saru, so.
If that didn't get you interested, I don't know what will, but definitely check out that trailer, because this is one you're not going to want to miss.
And Ghost Cat Anzu had the unique production cycle of being filmed in live action and then animated in a pseudo rotoscope style, but the animation does not look like a Ralph Bakshi or something akin to I Lost My Body. It has this vibrant, cartoony art style, and there's already an English teaser for it on G Kids' YouTube channel, so definitely give that one a look. The Most Precious of Cargo is possibly setting itself up to be the big animation award contender because of its subject matter, but also it's going to premiere in competition at the Cannes Film Festival. Something that hasn't happened since 2008 with the Waltz with Bashir film. So many years have passed and they never thought about adding more animation, especially with what we've gotten since 2008 to 2024.
Yeah,
really?
Seriously.
Oy. And then we also have some other ones like Toto-chan, the little girl at the window from Japan, that looks really cute. There's a really cool sequence I think you can find on Katsuka's website that shows this really neat moment in the film One of the bigger surprises, well, two of them, is the fact that these two films that I'm about to mention are both stop motion. For some reason, everyone in the world will let stop motion happen, but then letting the US do that, it's like you better chop off your hand in payment or else, get your own money because we're not dropping the cash for stop motion. Well, what makes these two special is we have Memoir of a Snail, which is by the same director of Mary and Max from 2009, Adam Elliott. And if you have not seen Mary and Max, do so. It is wonderful. One of those truly great last third story beats that just makes the whole movie so special. And Savages, which is a collaboration between Switzerland, France, and Belgium, is by the same director of My Life as a Zucchini or My Life as a Cougarette, Claude Barris. Now, there's no screenplay by Celine Sciamma, who, for those that may be more into the live action stuff, was the writer and director of Portrait of a Lady on Fire and Petite Maman. But Claude Barris is so good. And My Life as a Cougarette or My Life as a Zucchini is so special. It was one of those super unique stop motion films, just one of those stellar overseas animated features that also got nominated for an Oscar. Sadly, it lost to Zootopia, but 2016 was a stacked year, and you got why Zootopia won that year. Different topic for another time. A Boat in the Garden, a new film by the director Jean-Francois Laguilloni, who did The Painting, which is one of my favorite films from 2011, but it also got a US release, I think, in 2013. Super cool art film meets Inception kind of thing. It just looks great. I mean, I trust that director. If he's making a new movie, he's one of those you watch. The Imaginary, the new film by Studio Ponok, made by former Ghibli animators, is getting released here in July by Netflix. And if you haven't seen the trailer for that one, golly, they essentially left their Studio Ghibli 1.1 and now their own film studio.
You can't really live in the shadow of Ghibli forever.
Yeah, exactly. And then we have one of the few Chinese films that's being released during this festival called The Storm, which is being made by a director who made, I think it was called like The Guardian or something. It was from 2017 because it came out a little bit after Monkey King, the one from 2015. And it had this really cool watercolor art style. And apparently The Storm is going to have like elements from that film brought into this one. And once again, Katsuka is one of those film sites that you should follow because they'll have a trailer for this and it looks great. The Contra Champs section of the festival, which are films that help define and push animation into a new step as an art form. This is where you're probably going to find some that will make it over here. But sometimes they're like the more experimental niche films. It's like, okay, we want to show these, but we know audiences aren't going to like them as much.
Like Sultana's Dream.
Yeah, like that one. Or like they're not going to have the biggest reach. Like some of these other ones, like Gil, Living Large, Pelican Blue, Our Crazy Love, Black Butterflies, and Sunbird Unicorn are probably going to be a little more attention grabbing, but we'll have to see. A lot of the things that makes foreign animation unique is that they're willing to go experimental or tell different kinds of stories or be more abstract. But that also leads to a lot of films that can either be a little tedious to watch or boring at points if you're not in the right mood to watch them. But the one that stands out to me is The Glass Worker from Pakistan. It is their first 2D animated feature. I have been following this since it showed up on Kickstarter. And that was maybe 2016, 2017.
Yeah, 2016.
That's amazing. I mean, it just shows how long some films can take to get made, even if studios will still shut it down. Mappa, freaking canceling that Yuri on Ice film. Ugh. I felt bad for the fans of that. But the Glassworker, while having a vibe similar to Ghibli, looks really good. It has a lot of promise. And for this to be their first 2D animated film in a blossoming animation scene, that's cool. Though I don't know if or we will ever see some of these. I don't quite know, or if they'll show up, like at best, maybe on Tubi. And I don't mean that as an insult. There aren't many companies like G Kids or Shout that will grab these films and be like, yeah, sure, we will absolutely give you the money to translate it and we'll bring it over for some kind of release.
Even Neon is kind of barely scratching the surface when it comes to acquiring foreign animation. I'm happy for the titles that they have gotten, but they're not quite at G Kids level.
No, which is why I keep saying we need more companies like G Kids. Now, they will have other more US offerings. It's not like they don't ever have them. Like in the official screening event section, they'll show off either previews or maybe unfinished versions or fully finished versions of films like Despicable Me 4, Ultraman Rising, The Wild Robot, Inside Out 2, a preview of like Moana 2 or Transformers 1, which I thought Transformers 1 looked fine if we just want to talk quickly about the trailer.
Yeah. Something that I've said about the Transformers 1 trailer is it kind of looks like a theatrical version of some of the more kid-friendly Transformers cartoons, which is fine. I think there was a little bit too much commotion about this franchise, which is based on a series of toy robots, is too focused on kids.
I get it, but it's like every generation is going to have their version of Transformers. And I know a lot of people love the 80s version. I do too. I think that's a very solid film, even though I don't love it as much as others. But the fact is, they're going to show these off at the festival. The one I'm looking forward to is Shang-An, which is by Light Chaser Animation, which did White Snake, New Gods, Neza Reborn, New Gods, Yang Jian, and what have you. This is more, instead of their high octane action films, this is apparently more of a drama. And not only that, a 168-minute drama. Someone decided to say, hey, we can make a 3-hour movie. And they said, sure, that's cool. Like, yeah, maybe I could dunk on it if I really wanted to, but I'm not going to. Animated films seem to keep getting stuck at either like 90 minutes or maybe 80 minutes or 100 minutes. But not many of them want to go to the 2-hour mark. This one, it's just like, we're going to go 3 hours.
And considering like the gorgeous animation that comes from that creative team, just imagine getting lost in that world for 3 hours.
Oh, it's probably going to be killer. I love it. I hope it gets released here, though. Like most of their animated films have been brought over. I'm wondering if G Kids will invest into this one. Otherwise, I maybe can see Netflix getting into it. Now, for the Annecy Presents, there's a lot of other fare here. Like there's a Garfield movie showing there. There's a Detective Conan film. The Sandland film is going to be shown there, even though the Disney Plus Hulu series is first 6 or so episodes will be the movie and such, but I hear it's great. We'll have to talk about it at some point.
Oh, yes.
And it's like some of these look fine. Like Plodicus looks pretty interesting. The World's Divide was a Kickstarter funded one where it's all done by one person, essentially. So all the animating, coloring, compositing, all of that. And I put in some cash for a digital copy of the film. And it's very cool to see a Kickstarter film here. Just like with The Glassworker, you don't see that often. There's a lot to like here, and maybe y'all will find other things that look interesting here if you decide to take a look at the films and the lineup that they have.
From the Netflix presentation, the one shows that I'm most curious to see any sort of first preview of is Zack Snyder's series Twilight of the Gods. We talked about that I think 3 or 4 years ago when it was first announced. Now that we're getting kind of closer to its release, I'm fascinated to see what this is all about.
I might not be Snyder's biggest fan. I really did not like Rebel Moon, and I'm going to wait to see the second one when the director's cut comes out, which shouldn't have happened in the first place, that there had to be two different versions of part one and part two, but whatever. This is why I get so annoyed with people when they say there's no 2D animation getting made or there's nothing interesting coming out. Y'all have a phone. Ask around at people who follow animation or what have you. I'm always willing to talk or show or recommend movies that aren't just the stuff you find from the US market. There's a lot going on out there. And while the other half of the battle is that these need to find their audiences and come over to the US or wherever people want to see them, y'all have to watch them. If they're made available to you, you give it a watch. You support it. You talk about it. It takes two to tango, and it's a collaboration that both need to take part in.
And that's kind of the whole reason why I started this podcast in the first place. We, if nothing else, we want to help spread the word of these movies from around the world. Most of the stuff we end up talking about is stuff that comes from the US or US based sites like Crunchyroll, Netflix, etc. But there's a whole world of animation out there. You just have to be willing to find it.
Just go on an adventure, man. It's all out there. But this is why I like looking at stuff like Annecy, because they will show me what's coming out, what to possibly look forward to for animation as film, and we go from there. But also distributors, you need to make these available. Now we move from France to Japan as we talk about the written and illustrated manga series by Tatsuya Endo, Spy Family. We know it says Spy X Family, but you do not say the X part. I get why they had to put the X there, but just say Spy Family. So we have it's interesting. I guess you can call it a 3-season show and then a movie, but Crunchyroll has it as 2 seasons. But when the anime changes the opening, it means it's a new season. So we have a story about a spy who has to build a family to execute a mission. And the twist here is the father of the family is the spy, or the wife is a trained assassin, and they both have to hide their identities to each other and their kid. But the kid is a telepath, so she knows who they are and what they actually do. So it becomes like a weird game of cat and mouse as they all try to not reveal their true identities and profession or powers while trying to become a functioning family that starts out fake but slowly forms an actual loving family. The first season was released in April of 2022. It is a co-production by Wit Studio and Cloverworks. It's based off of a really popular manga. This thing has sold over 34 million copies, and the series is highly acclaimed. Mike, what do you think about this show?
I can't remember exactly what I said back in the spring 2022 anime impressions, but I remember after those first three episodes understanding immediately why this series was so beloved. Now that I actually finished the thing, it's genuinely one of my favorite new shows to come out in like the last 5, 10 years.
When we were starting this, it was very much not thriller based, but spy based, where it was all about like, we got to do this, we got to stay in character, we got to make sure we are not spotted or look weird or found out as not a real family. Were you expecting this show to be more comedy based or action spy based?
I was expecting a pretty healthy balance. You look at Anya's design, and you know there's going to be some comedic element to it. What I wasn't expecting was just how silly it gets. And I mean, silly to almost Looney Tunes extents, kind of as the series progresses.
It's interesting to me because after the initial setup of them forming a family, getting together, going to the school, and then setting roots into the school with friends and a plan to get closer to their target whose kid happens to go to the school. It then gets into probably more antics than I was expecting. Because if you ever follow the dubious My Anime List genre categories, this one was like action, comedy, thriller. It's more of a comedy for a majority of its bulk of like what 37 episodes
Yeah.
as of right now. And on one hand, I was slightly bored about going through this. I mean, I love the characters. I think the world is captivating in that old school spy espionage way. I love that Lloyd Forger is having to constantly think on his feet and put his spy skills to test with being a good dad and a good husband, but also making sure to get all the info that he can. And how much Yor, as she was like a bit aloof, kind of unaware of the world around her, or she just didn't pay much attention to it or the people around her, how deadly she was as an assassin. And like they made her maybe goofier than either Anya or Lloyd in the overall show. Like I felt like her trope that she got stuck with was the huge misunderstanding thing, like
Yeah.
story trope, which it was funny. Some of it was very funny, like when she thought Anya forgot her gym clothes and had to basically Spider-Man her way into the school and not get caught to give her the clothes, only to find out that they didn't have gym today. And it could be really funny, or seeing Anya interact with the other kids. The whole incident of when the male kid who has a crush on her, well, he acts like he doesn't, but he does,
Oh, Damien.
who is possibly one of the most obnoxious kid characters, like intentionally obnoxious.
I think his friends are worse.
His friends, this is where I agree with the Looney Tunes antics come in. These are very Looney Tunes written evil kid characters. And I love the moment where Anya kind of snaps and just punches Damien. The expression game on this show is wonderful, especially on Anya. Anya is a little lightning in a bottle array of expressions and emotions. It is great. She is definitely the comedic highlight of the show. Even if at points the cutesy character dialogue got a little annoying.
I won't lie. At times, she can be a little grating, but her best moments are when the writing and the voice acting is just firing on all cylinders.
I love every time that she has to write a letter for she thinks she's going to be like super serious and she's writing something dramatic and like heartfelt. And then when Lloyd gets it, he's like, this is incomprehensible. Like just doodles and chicken scratch. I love that joke and I love that they go with that in the movie. But there was also a part of me that really wished there was a little more action in that first half of the series because after the whole formation of the family, it really turns into a comedy where it's mostly on Anya, which I get it, but I wanted there to be a little more time or like just episodes focusing on Lloyd or Yor, which they definitely do fix with Yor getting a whole story arc and amazing fight sequence in the second season. But a lot of the time, it's the adventures of Anya and her antics at school. Not that they're all bad, but I wanted there to be more of the story and like the drama because there's that moment near the end of the first season where we finally meet Damien's dad, who is Lloyd's target. And we see how he enters into the ongoing competition of worst dad in anime.
Yep.
It reminds me of who was the rich family in Gravity Falls?
The West family.
It reminds me of that dynamic because the dad would constantly look at the son less if he made any small mistake. And if the son tried to talk back, you would just get this look from the father, and the son would clam up and be like, sorry, dad. And oh man, it just you can see why he's the target. He's a despicable person, just a awful individual at hand. But we don't get a lot of the main mission until that point. I know that the manga is still ongoing, but I don't know. Would you have liked to have seen less of the antics and more of the drama and story, or were you fine with seeing so much of it be silly and goofy?
I'm kind of torn because, on the one hand, literally the main mission is that Lloyd has to form this family so that he can get closer to his target. But part of that mission is Anya and her getting into Eden. So I get why so much time was focused on her antics in the first season. But I also understand that, with a world this intriguing, you do kind of want to see more of the world and maybe more of like the side missions that Lloyd goes on or some of the jobs that Yor does for the garden, which is a cool kind of secret assassin organization.
And it's not like we just follow these four characters. We also have Bond Forger, their dog that could see into the future. And once again, he's in the running for best dog in anime because he's a big old sweetie. And then we also have Lloyd's informant, Franklin, voiced by Anthony Bowling. We have Sylvia Sherwood, who is, I thought was going to be a villain at first, but then she's just more of the boss to Lloyd. Then we also have Yuri Breyer, the overprotective brother of Yor Forger, the obsessed assassin agent Fiona Frost, and then the kids at school, Becky, Emil, Damien, Ewan, and at some points George Gluman. Is he the principal? Henry Henderson, the guy with the long 2-part beard and the monocle?
The guy who says, most elegant.
He's great. Barry Yandel is fantastic as him. Like, we get to see more of the characters. We see Yor's, frankly, terrible friend circle.
Her friend, well, I don't even want to call them friends. They're merely co-workers.
Yeah, acquaintances. But golly, Camilla is the worst. And she's meant to be. She's talked down to her entire on-screen time. And then once she sees that she has a hot, rich husband, she gets so mad as if it's Dominic's fault that Yor has a secret spy as a husband. Like, how is that his fault, Camilla?
Poor
And
Dominic.
yeah, poor Dominic. He's just trying to be the bridge that connects the two, but it just never works. But again, a lot of the spy stuff is put into the background with the second half of season 2 finally giving us an arc and a moral quandary for Yor if she wants to keep being an assassin where she's still making money, she's protecting her daughter, Anya, and being a loving wife and mother for the family for Lloyd's sake. But that takes a lot of time to get there, even if the recent season of Spy X Family gives us an amazing opening with the animation directed by the always fantastic Masaki Yuasa.
Yeah.
But that's really the only major complaint I have, because whatever issues I have with how much it focuses on the comedy, I still like the characters. They still give you time for Lloyd and Yor to figure out their romance and relationship as it goes back and forward between co-workers to actually they love each other, and Lloyd becoming more attached to Anya despite Anya being slightly annoying. I think a perfect image to encapsulate this is the last image that represents this whole show, is the last shot in the ending for season 2 where Anya shows off the new picture she drew of the family with, of course, all 4 of them, including the dog. And that little goblin face that she has is so funny. And Lloyd is just kind of like figuring out, what is this? Let me use my spy skills to figure out what she's drawing and what's on her mind. And then Yor is just, she's happy and that they all love each other. But then when the action kicks in, it's so fun. Yor has some of the best action set pieces in recent anime history.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I like that they actually show the action and how dynamic it can be. I'm sure that's with a lot of help with having Wit Studios and Cloverworks. Because, you know, Wit Studios was behind the first few seasons of Attack on Titan and Ranking of Kings. And I'm not entirely sure what Cloverworks did to help with this. I assume it's just like, hey, we'll do this majority of the anime and you'll do this majority of the anime. The action is really good. It just saves a lot of it for in the later half of the episode so far.
I think that's part of the show's strength. I don't know if the manga would have been as popular if it was like too much of just a straightforward action spy thriller. I think the comedy helps it stand out. The comedic moments help strengthen both the action sequences and some of the more heartfelt moments, while also the action will strengthen the comedic moments too.
Even though we complained a lot about the pacing and how comedy based it went, it's still very enjoyable. I love a lot of the comedy. I'm not saying I hated it. Sometimes it doesn't work, but there's stuff like when they get that little apple tart thing, and Anya thinks it's going to make her better at school and everything, and yet she still fails. But you feel for her. And there is a lot of fun with them having to go back and forward of having to hide their identities or powers. And that can be fun. It definitely leads to a lot of Anya being way too smug and confident for her own good. But the character's fun to be around. If these characters were annoying, then nobody would like this show as much as they do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also one of those rare shows where I can't think of a lot of fan service that shows up. Not that it's bad, but it's usually thrown in in a distracting degree. But this show is fairly tamed. I mean, outside of the action, the cursing, and sometimes heavy amounts of blood. And I think that's interesting because most big anime at least have some sexual gags. But here, I don't think there was one. I mean, yeah, you could say the outfit for yours sexually stylized and such, and yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm.
But they never do any of the typical fan service stuff. They never put Yor in a bad situation where she has to be sexy or whatever. I just think that's fascinating.
At most, what this series does is there are a lot of characters pining for someone else, like Fiona and her constant attempts to try to win over Lloyd, or Yuri being the overprotective brother to kind of an extreme extent.
It's like I get why he's protective of Yor because they grew up without a family and she had to do a lot of work that for some reason he doesn't get. It's like, oh, she's killing people. And even he has to hide the fact that he works for the government, like to a deep degree of the government. Like, we will kidnap people in broad daylight with no one knowing and then torture them for answers kind of government work. But his antics of being the overprotective brother definitely hits a point where, okay, buddy, you're getting a little creepy with how you act around Yor.
Kind of like he has Oedipus complex.
But there's so much charm in this show, and the script is so funny. And even with like some of the more occasional tropey jokes or character moments, the fact that they build up the characters as well as they do first makes for the drama and comedy to hit harder. Because if you didn't care about these characters, you would find this show very unpleasant. Not in a oh these characters morally suck way, but it's just like you're overthinking everything. Well, so is Lloyd, so is Anya, and that makes it funny because sometimes you can get way too hung up on something and overthink it at the same time.
Yep,
I've done that many times.
me too.
It happens. And I'm wondering when we're going to get another season. I mean, of course, give Wit and Cloverworks their time. Let them do this like at their own pace. I'm willing to wait for a new season. But it was definitely an interesting ending because we get to the cruise ship plot arc where Yor has her whole morality and job put into question. And then of course she's like, I am willing to do this for Lloyd and I love them. And then the last episode is essentially them having an actual peaceful time as a family. And it's nice. I was really shocked with the whole montage at the end and then it being like, see you on the next mission. And it's like, wait, that's it? You mean I gotta wait more?
We are going to see more Spy Family eventually because because there is clearly an audience for the show. I have no idea if Wit and Cloverworks just has too much on their plate right now, or they're just giving the manga plenty of room to breathe, and then I don't know, we'll come back with season 3 and it'll just like hit the ground running. I don't know. If nothing else, watching these 37 episodes and then the movie, which we'll get to in a second, it's actually made me want to read the manga.
Exactly. And definitely Wit Studios is very busy. They have My Dear Friend Nokotan and the Suicide Squad Isekai on the horizon. So, yeah, they're definitely very busy right now. Same with Cloverworks, where they have a few shows here. They're currently working on Windbreaker, which when we get to our anime podcast, I will be gushing about this one. Windbreaker is one of the best anime of this season so far. But they're also working on Black Butler Public School arc. They got the Elusive Samurai coming out next season. They have I may be a guild receptionist, but I'll solo any boss to clock out on time. And then a new season of this multi-idol project called Unite Up that's going to be released next year, and they have 2 movies in the works. So
They got their hands full.
yeah, which is fine. Let them do these first and let them, like, I'll wait until January 2026 if I need to for the next season. So they're fine. Don't overwork them, which is something the anime industry loves doing anyway. But now, to tie this over, we have Spy X Family Code White, where it's not based off of any part of the manga. It's not the next step. It's more an original story. And we have the Forger family getting a task of, well, Anya comes back from school and they have to make a dessert. And Lloyd, the ever so like, I need to get this mission done, is like, well, I know the principal's favorite dessert. How do you know that? Shut up. I just know. Sorry. But it's just funny how nobody questions how he knows these extremely specific details. But, whatever. It makes it funnier. And he says, you know what? We can go to this location and we can get the dessert and try it. And then we can come back, make it, and you'll pass. You'll get another little star. And then we'll be closer to killing the target. But, of course, things arise when they have to stop a government plan of causing more disruption and war between the 2 nations that Lloyd is trying to stop. So it's up to Lloyd, Yor, Anya, and the best dog Bond to put a stop to it while also becoming closer as a family. I was looking forward to this. With my love for the show made me excited for a franchise film, when I'm not always the most excited for these, because it's like I want them to keep building up the world, but then the stuff they introduce into the world doesn't really matter. And maybe it's just because I was spoiled by Jujutsu Kaisen 0 or the Demon Train arc from Demon Slayer being an actual part of the manga story before, it got chopped up into a new part of the season because of it having to go into the red light district arc of that show. But for here, I think it was fine that Spy X Family Code White does not have a connecting story, since you can essentially place it wherever in the timeline. I don't think you have to worry too much about watching all 35 or 7 episodes to get into this movie. You can pretty much watch the first season when they get Bond and then watch the movie and you'll be fine.
Even if you're coming into this totally blind, they tell you who all of these characters are in the first 5 minutes anyway.
They tell you everything, which can be a little distracting, that they have to recap certain story beats so everyone's on the same page. But I forgive that because not everyone watches anime. As big of an industry that anime is, not everyone watches it. So we basically get a family trip movie that ends in a spy action movie, which, if you were looking for more action in your spy family formula, then you got it with this one. Unfortunately, while I do very much like this movie, it's in my top 10 ranking of animated films so far of this year. I found myself liking the second half more than the first half.
I understand why, because the second half is where Yor gets one of like the coolest action scenes fighting that Type F, and it's like, she's surrounded in like flames.
In flames inside like a giant military blimp. It's just funny because it absolutely makes sense for this world to have a friggin' Resident Evil villain like in Type F in the plot line. I never question it. It's like, what is this decked out Terminator doing here? And then it's like, no, it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, we have a dog who can see the future, and Anya is a telepath. So at this point, all bets are off.
I think the big problem for me with this movie is the instigating factor of this movie. Lloyd gets the mission message from the ever so obsessive
Fiona Frost.
and Yor happens to see the two of them together, and we get another misunderstanding plot. And that's what fuels the entire first half of the movie, where Yor is constantly thinking Lloyd is going to get rid of her and dump her for someone else. And I am partially annoyed by this because it just feels like it regresses all that work done in season 2 to make this plot sensible, quote unquote. I love these two together. I love Lloyd and Yor. They make a cute couple. They have good chemistry. They actually do love each other, even if they haven't actually said it yet to each other. I wish there was something a little stronger than misunderstanding trope plot. I think Anya's whole baking mission was enough to kick the plot into gear. I mean, that's the whole thing with this movie. They don't know something's bad going on until they get to that little restaurant and we see Snyder, who is not, I guess you would say he's not the most entertaining villain, but he fits so perfectly within the world of Spy Family.
He does.
He is the worst. I hate him. He's just like, I want a slice of that dessert that they're here to have. Well, they have the only one left. Well, it looks like they haven't touched it, so I'm going to bring it over. It's like, it's like, what an a-hole, man. I mean, it helps that John Swayze does a great job. He makes him slimy as hell.
He is amazing. Colonel Snidel is one of those characters that, like you said, absolute worst human being, but that's what makes him such a great foil for the family.
Right. And I also liked his henchmen, Luca and Dimitri. Dimitri with his supernatural hocus pocus kind of vibe of, I know what I'm doing and I'm the world and the spirits guide me. Where Luca is just like, God dang it, man, we do not have time for your superstition. But I also like that they're just following orders. They're not actually that evil of people. I mean, they are willing to hurt a kid, but they are hesitant to do so, even to a point where they think they might have to cut open Anya to get a thing that she accidentally swallowed. And they are just like, do we really have to do this? I don't want to do it. You do it. No, you do it. Fine, we'll play rock, paper, scissors, and then who loses will decide. It's more or less a lot of the stuff that you want in a Spy X Family film. It's got cute character moments. It's got comedy. I wish the first half was as strong as the second half.
It's kind of like the show, too, where the first half is a little bit more comedic, whereas the second half is where you get all your action.
I think that's also because this is also very much comedy driven. It's more funny than serious. And it's not a grand scale story. It's very small to a degree. And I don't mind that. I like smaller scale stories in my feature animated films. But I understand if someone gets bored of the antics from the first half. And I think that's because I don't think the director has much experience with directing a movie. It's Takashi Katagiri, who worked on a ton of other anime like The Great Pretender or Vivi and Pokemon Paldean Winds. Like, he's a good director, but the movie definitely feels like a longer episode, which is not a bad thing by definition, but it just doesn't feel movie-like at points. It just feels like a new episode, which, hey, that's great. But when I see a movie, I want to make it feel like it's a movie.
Maybe it's because I'm already impressed with the work that Wit and Cloverworks did on the series. When I saw this on the big screen, I got a little bit of that cinematic quality, at least like we keep stressing during the second half when it does become more action focused and we do get that awesome fight between Yor and the Type F.
No, I agree. I think it looks very big in the second half when they're trying to stop the blimp from causing destruction and such. I think it's also the fact that the second half also has one elongated poop joke, which is funny because the animation makes it entertaining. But it is like, did we really need 15 to 20 minutes for this poop joke to be as long as it was? It was just a weird gag to put in there, but it's entertaining. The heavenly realm that Anya goes to with the god of pooping is so bug nutty. It's like a Science Saru Masaki Yuasa sequence. And it goes all out. Like, if you're going to make a joke revolving around the fact that Anya needed to go to the bathroom, they went so far into the absurdity with her movements, with her expressions, to this divine sequence. And then the whole, the statues where the water is coming out of, where it looks like they're peeing. And then she just gets launched into a toilet and then like fireworks explode. It's just like, well, at least they went the extra mile to make it entertaining.
That's why I can't get mad at that scene, because I did commit to the bit.
It was just odd.
Yeah. If you're not ready for that sort of absurd sense of humor, then I don't blame you, because as much as I love the humor in Spy Family, it is kind of an acquired taste.
If you're down for more cartoony antics, then you will be down for this one. I love a lot of the humor that this franchise has, but man, that was, well, it's like Patton Oswalt says in his Talking for Clapping special. I think they almost lost me with that bit, but it was so absurd that I was like, okay, I don't care. They went there. Kudos for them. Yeah, that action with Yor against Type F, that's like dynamic action setup. Like, it's amazing how great all that is. And it finally gives Yor more to do, because I feel like Yor kind of got the short end of the stick with the show up until that cruise ship arc. Not that Lloyd doesn't have his own stellar moments, but it was like, I'm not going to say it was an apology letter for Yor, but it feels like, hey, this is the fan service y'all want to see. You want to see her kick 7 layers of butt. It was great. It was a good action sequence.
I'm actually not sure which I like more, her fight with Type F or her final fight in the cruise arc. They're both great moments.
They are very good moments. And even by the end of the story, I am happy that they still think of each other as a family and are still very happy with each other. But I will say, it almost lost me, though, with the twist at the end, where Anya was super ready to bake that dessert, only for a last-minute twist of the kitchen oven exploding and them delaying the dessert and competition to be judged by not the principal, but the vice principal. It almost lost me there, because it's just like, are you telling me we did all of that for nothing? It's almost like a cruel joke of how they almost died, all for a dessert that they weren't even going to be able to make. But they then throw in a punchline of Lloyd being like, well, I know what the vice principal likes. Don't ask me how I know that, shut up. But we could go on another vacation. And it's just more goofy fun, which is really what you have to go in with Spy Family. It's goofy fun. It's not a intense spy thriller. Do not go in thinking it's going to be like one of the more serious Mission Impossible films.
No.
This one is more like a mix of all the goofy antics from Mission Impossible 2 and the rest of the franchise.
Or I think you said this somewhere else, but this is like stylistically, this is closer to like Lupin the Third or Great Pretender, but even sillier.
Oh no, exactly. This one focuses more on the comedy than the spy world drama part, but it's fun. If this is your cup of tea, then you will absolutely be down for it. And I highly recommend it. I don't know if it's going to be playing by the time this episode goes up, but I assume it's probably going to be somewhere on Crunchyroll and on Blu-ray and DVD and whatever in the near future after that. So if you've been looking for more Spy Family, you wanted to see Anya's antics, wanted to see the characters more, they even throw in the other side characters for their one bit of exposition and pushing the story forward, and are down for a goofier spy thriller, give it a watch. It's a lot of fun. I came out of this liking it more than when I finished watching it at first. Because I was like, I don't know. And then the more I'm thinking about it and as we talk about it, I like it more the more it sits with me.
I think that's exactly why Spy Family, Code White, and by extension, Spy Family, the entire franchise, has such lasting impression on the audience. I'm very glad that I am now fully engrossed in this world, and I look forward to whatever they do next with it.
Exactly. Like, we'll see what happens or when we'll get more. Or if they'll just make another movie in between, which, hey, that wouldn't be bad. At least it would be different than many of the shonen battle franchise films where they just do not matter at all, despite having sometimes more compelling characters in whatever they're doing in the manga at that point. Nothing against them, but like, I've been burned so many times by like, wow, this is a really cool and interesting bit of world building and characters. I hope we're not going to see them again. Okay. We talk about wanting to see other animated experiences, and we do. We saw some incredible ones like Chicken for Linda and Sirocco. But I am always down for a really solid, fun franchise film, which is the case. People don't mind franchise films, but they want them to be entertaining and good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, good is subjective, but if they're entertained by the franchise film, then you're set with a home run.
And as long as they stay as entertaining as Spy Family, Code White, or even the One Piece films, Film Red, I still think about in high regard.
Now, we're going into May. May, for some reason, decided to be our busy month. I think our next episode is going to be about Mars Express, the French sci-fi film, which, oh boy, Mike, I can't wait for you to see that. It is so good.
Can't wait to see it.
I saw it at Animation as Film on the big screen. I don't know if this will have a wide release or, a bigger release than most G Kids films. But if you can, definitely go see it. They'll have a website and theater listings. Just go see it. And then, well, we have 5 animated films coming out this coming month. Like, we got a lot to cover. And that's on top of the anime episode that we got to talk about the spring season, which I am enjoying, but I will say it's probably the weakest spring season I've seen in a good long time.
Uh-oh.
No, I mean, it's not a summer season situation. It's got a lot of really good shows, but it's like the one spring season so far since we've been tackling this where it took kind of a while for me to get to the good stuff.
All right. Well, until next time, Cameron, where can everyone find you online?
You can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Cam's Eye View. I have a website called camseyeview.biz where I review animated films and shows from around the world called The Other Side of Animation. And I have a Patreon at patreon.com/camsiview. That's where you can find me.
And you guys can find me on various social media at Captain K42. You can check out my quick thoughts on letterboxd.com/Coach K42. And you can follow Renegade Pop Culture on Facebook and that place at Ren Pop Culture. You can also find us on YouTube, on Podchaser. Consider supporting our Patreon at patreon.com/Renegade Pop Culture. Listen to all of our podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. And last but not least, everything can be found at renegadepopculture.com. You need escape, so do we. That'll do it for this episode of Renegade Animation. We will catch you guys later. Peace out.